Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started in about 10 minutes. Thanks so much for joining. We're starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks. Stay safe in the meantime. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Nick Chaillan. We're going to get started in about 10 minutes. Thanks so much for joining us. If you have questions, please ask the questions in the comment section. Just start the question with a Q, so we know this is a question, not just a comment. So we're gonna be taking questions live as well today. Thanks. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Nick Chaillan. We're going to get started in about 9 minutes. Thanks so much for joining us. Today we're going to talk about day one and day two, Ruthless automation. We're going to have two guests, two special guests today to show a little bit about how they implement this at scale. And we'll take, of course, your questions live as well. Thanks for joining us. Hi, everybody. This is Nick Chaillan. We're going to get started in about 7 minutes. Thanks so much for joining us. Please make sure if you have questions, go into the comment section and start the question with a Q, so we know this is a question. You can ask any question today. We're going to take them live. We're going to do a quick presentation on day one and day two with less automation, and then we'll take your questions live. Thanks so much for joining us again. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Nick Chaillan again. We're going to get started in 5 minutes. Like I said, if you have questions, please put them in the comment section below with the started with the queue, and we're going to take your questions live. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about day one and day two with Ruthless automation. That's going to be exciting. We have two special guests today to talk to us about their experience in the domain. So stay tuned. 5 more minutes, we'll get started. Thanks so much for joining us. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get started in about 3 minutes. Again, if you have questions, please make sure you put it into the comment section below and start with a Q so we know it's a question. Also, feel free to chat and share with the group here. Lots of very smart people will be showcasing today two experts in day one and day two automation as my guests. We'll get started in about 3 minutes. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much again for joining us. We'll get started in about 2 minutes. Again, if you have questions, please make sure you put them in the comments below and start it with a Q so we know it's a question and not a comment. Feel free also to share and talk with the group. A lot of great people here. Already see a lot of familiar faces. Excited to have you guys and girls. Lots of things to talk about today, and we'll take your questions live. And I have two special guests as well here today to talk to us about day one and day two Ruthless automation. And we really have a couple of great questions to get us started. Thanks. Hey, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Also, if you wanna just say hi to people and let people know you're here, you can also post in the comments. I'll showcase you at the bottom of the screen. So please do that. A lot of people love to be able to know you're here. And again, if you have a question, start the comment with a Q, so we know it's a question. And like I said, we're gonna get started in about a minute. There's a little bit of a delay between when I talk and when you get to see it live. So keep that in mind. I think there's like a 2 or 3 minute delay. I don't know why. It's just the way the system is designed with LinkedIn Live. So keep that in mind. If there's a little bit of a delay when you ask a question, it's often because of that delay. I may have answered it already, but you don't get to see it for a little bit of time. So please ask questions. We'll get started, let's say, in a minute. Thanks. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. This is Nick Chaillan. Today it is our second LinkedIn Live event, Ask Me Anything event. Today we're going to talk about day 1 and day 2, ruthless automation and what that means and why it's so important to your organization to succeed in moving at a place of relevance. We'll take your questions live. I have 2 great guests today that will show us how they do this at scale and why this matters. And I'll be asking them questions. You can ask them questions. Put it in the comments below, okay? Start with a Q so we know it's a question. Also, if you want to say hi to people, just please comment. I'll showcase you and people will be able to see that you're here. I see people from all over the world right now connected. It's exciting. I see Kurt here saying hi from Alaska. Hopefully it's not too cold. It's getting chilly here in Virginia. All right, so let's talk a little bit about where we are and the recent news. And you may have seen that I've been pushing the awareness, raising awareness already about the state of artificial intelligence and cybersecurity in the Department of Defense, trying to make sure we take this seriously and wake up before it is too late. There's a report that actually says that if we do not take significant action by December 2022, we will be running out of time. And again, I think it's because of the massive adoption of AI by China, the volume of data, the fact that AI compounds upon itself through learning and continuous delivery of capability. And at some point, you just can't keep up and catch up, and you're out of the picture of relevance. There's nothing worse than not being relevant anymore, and even no one even trying to hack you because they don't care about what you do anymore. You're irrelevant to the big picture. So I've been raising awareness in the last 2 weeks. You may have seen that in a couple of different shows. I think I outline here a few shows that are pretty good at summarizing really what I've been trying to say without putting words in my mouth. So check out the great interview with Government Matters with American thought leaders. That's a longer interview, 55 minutes, but a very good one. But you can watch it at 2x speed, and maybe you can even understand my French accent even better. Who knows? And then there's a great radio interview with GovCon Different. Again, I really did a deep dive into the solutions to the problems we're talking about here. So again, the goal is not just to talk about problems. We want to bring tangible answers. And then, of course, I've been on Fox and different TV channels as well. So check those out if you missed it. Now, I think it's pretty important to know that I'm going to be writing an op-ed in the next couple of weeks on solutions, and I'm going to really do a deep dive on everything about acquisition, contracting, training, manning, retention of talent, of course, join teams, and how to build enterprise services that move at the pace of relevance in cloud, in DevSecOps, in data fabric, AI, ML, and all of the critical basics of IT that we need to succeed. So this is exciting. We'll be able to really pinpoint answers and not just problems. So again, if you want to say hi to people, just post in the comments, say that you're here. And of course, if you're not sometimes letting people know your name, unfortunately, as you can see, sometimes you just show up as as LinkedIn user. We don't see your name. So of course, I'm going to be showcasing you. We have a few questions. We're going to take some questions live, but please check out some of these interviews and give me your feedback. What could I improve? What should I say differently? What kind of key point of information am I missing, or should I insist for my next interviews? I'm going to be recurring on TV and different shows. So please, give me your insights. Of course, I'm not used to TV. Being live on TV is not easy. I do better in smaller groups and maybe keynotes and stuff like that. But TV is tough, So you have all the cameras, the lights. It's a little scary, right? So I'm always a little bit stressed and having a tough time say what I want to say. So I love to see if you have tangible example. The most challenging for me is because of the audience. I want to make things simple, yet relevant and enough so people pay attention. And it's not easy, right? Because we know DoD and we know how we talk and how we think, but not everyone understands this, and not everyone is technical enough to understand what we're talking about. So, all right. So like I said, if you have questions, put it in the comment section. Just start with a Q. If you don't start with a Q, I'm going to showcase you. So to say you're here, and share your name, so you can say hi to your friends here joining us. There's a lot of great people already here live. So now that we talk a little bit about my ego and the news, let's talk a little bit about ruthless automation and why this matters. And I'm very excited because I managed to convince two great people that want to share their journey here and bring their thoughts to the discussion with Navin and Tapasvi from Vivsoft. And I'm going to bring them on now so they can introduce themselves quickly, and then we'll get into the meat of the subject. And of course, if you want to ask them questions, go below and ask them questions, and ask the tough questions. I don't want them to get away with murder here, so let's make this fun.
Very good. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for having us on your EMA. It's an honor. So I'm Naveen Gunalan, founder and CEO at Vivsoft. My background is primarily supporting state and federal solutions for about 16 years now. I've had a progressive career in the government contracting industry, starting out as a technical recruiter, then went on to become a solution architect, program project management. And the last 10 years, I've been focused on BD and capture, primarily focused on emerging tech and platform development initiatives in federal since 2017. I'm very passionate about serving the federal government by leveraging innovative procurement mechanisms like CIBR and OTA. Happy to be here. Over to you, Tapasvi.
Thanks, Nick, for having us on this special edition of AMA with Accents. It's really cool to be here. I'm Tapasvi Kaza. I'm the CTO at Vivsoft. I'm responsible for service delivery, engineering, product management. And I've been lucky to be a part of multiple DevSecOps platform development initiatives within federal agencies. I think we're at a unique time in terms of emerging tech, and a lot of the technologies being available for us to quickly build solutions that matter, and that's what gets me going. And again, it's great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, thanks so much, guys, for joining. We're going to get into some of the meat of the subject, but tell us quickly also what you've been working on and what VivSoft is about. What made you really go and create your own venture? What did you not see elsewhere that made you do that?
Sure. Thank you, Nick. So here at VivSoft, since the beginning, we have been focused on solving complex and common use cases across federal agencies. So that's the key word that we look for in terms of the opportunities that we want to solve. We are primarily involved in federal platform development initiatives currently. In these initiatives, we are always looking for automating repeatable patterns that can be leveraged by other agencies. The greatest example I can give you is the innovation on N-Build, which is one of the key innovation out of our current effort at Platform One. Similarly, we are building a 3D printing marketplace for another Air Force customer. We expect to have our Imprint accelerator out of this effort. We believe that accelerator will solve use cases related to supply chain logistics to agencies like GSA, Defense Logistics Agency, and even some of the COVID-19 related use cases. We are also currently building another federal accelerator called Encrypted, where we are trying to solve chain of custody use cases using blockchain. In terms of customers, apart from Platform One, today we are currently supporting CMS for their Batcave DevSecOps platform initiative that just got started. We are also involved in building a test and evaluation DevSecOps platform for Defense Logistics Agency. This effort involves a rapid deployment of vendor products. We ensure security by using standard cloud automation templates. So that's a little bit about us, and we do have a demo to show it to you whenever we're ready. About the N-Build.
Yeah, we love to look at N-Build, and we'll go through the demo and we'll share the screen and kind of walk people through that. And I guess before we get started, we talk about ruthless automation and the importance of day one and day two automation. I guess Tapasvi, if you don't mind, walk me through why this matters, and I'm going to let you answer first, and then I'll see if I have stuff to add to that.
Sure, Nick. Again, this is a very unique time, I think, in the tech landscape where you have so many capabilities that need to come together to form these complex tech stacks. And for someone who is trying to build a solution for end users, you can't afford to wait because you're competing against a lot of people who can build tech fast. So the day one automation lets you stand up the technology stack so that you can start writing code and pushing it out. So the build side of it is very critical, so you can quickly get feedback on what you're building. Equally important is, now that you have a stack, you've gone through a deployment, you want to make sure that the deployment is secure. If you look at AI models, there's a lot of talk around adversarial drift detection, because someone might hack the kind of models that you have and make it infer the wrong things. So it's critical not just to build the day one capability, but also to maintain that state, whether it is through patching vulnerabilities, making sure your models are performing as expected. It's that end-to-end life cycle that you have to do. And the key part, which you mentioned upfront, right? It's a question of scale. It's not one application. It is not one environment. You're trying to do this across multiple application teams, pushing out new capabilities really quickly. And to do it at scale consistently with security, you can't do it without automation. And we have to be really focused on that.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And I think, people also think of security as a key aspect, right? Because if you can effectively have your desired state in Git, and then you have your production runtime, and you can compare what's running in production to what's in your Git repo, and you see any drift, and some companies are starting to look at how do we automate that? How do we look at that runtime and map it to Docker files, to Kubernetes manifest, to Istio manifest, to Kubernetes operators, to Helm charts, to see, hey, there was a drift or there was a change made in this code in the way it's running that is drifting away from your source of truth of your Git repo with your GitOps mindset. Last event, the first event we did 2 weeks ago, I talked about the importance of GitOps, and I guess day 2 and day 1 Ruthless automation is a key concept of that. There was a great question. I'm going to bring it up on the screen from, let's see, Boris here, that was asking, hey, what's the definition of ruthless automation? And that's obviously, like anything in life, very subjective, and I'm going to give my answer. But when I think of when do you automate or not automate, I think the first rule, if you talk about ruthless, and you want to make that the norm, is if you even wonder and you think about it, then that means the answer is yes, right? So if you hesitate, that's usually good enough to say you should do it, period. Because you want to automate even to the point where maybe you are automating a little bit too much, but it's better than not enough. So what's your take on that line, Navin, when you think about ruthless automation? Where do you start and when do you stop? And you're muted.
Yeah, Tapaswi, you want to take that, please?
Sure. So the take is, if you can quickly stand up your tech stack and it's taking you 2 weeks to get there, you're already losing time. And your competition is not waiting. They're able to deploy multiple times a day and push new capabilities out to the field. It's not a choice of, can I wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks for every bit of code that is functional to be deployed out. You need that capability to do that on day 1. And actually, I don't think we're having that luxury that used to exist, where you could build your code and it would take some cycles to get it out in production. I think that part of the software lifecycle is gone. We kind of need ruthless automation on day 1, even if you are not building mission critical applications, even if it is consumer apps. You are in a market that is innovating really fast, and you have to push at that speed to be relevant.
Yeah, and people dismiss it, saying, well, I need to move fast, so that's nice to have. But they fail to realize that it's going to be a massive technical debt and bottleneck down the road. And it's also creating a massive cyber risk. When you treat everything as cattle and you can just tear it down and bring it up on different networks, different classification level, particularly for DoD at scale across organizations, you have this flexibility of orchestration that effectively you can enable through automation. And the more you can deploy, I keep hearing a lot of teams in DoD say, oh, day 2 is so hard, and we have such a huge team in day 2. Well, the reason why you do, honestly, is also because you did not invest enough in automation, and you have these snowflakes across networks and environments that create more work and create a lot of redundant and honestly boring work as well. So that's something to keep in mind. I wanted to remind everybody also, if you have questions, please put it in the comment section and start with a Q, so we know it's a question. And then, if people just want to say hi, to say they're here, please do that. We have a lot of people that want to share. Maybe tell us where you're from, what company you're with, and what state or what country you're from. That's always cool to know. So, before we move to end build and your demo today, that is going to show kind of the value of that day 1 and day 2 orchestration, I'm going to describe a little bit, Platform One Big Bang and what it does, and for people that don't know. So Platform One, is the first ever authorized team by DoD CIO and ANS to be the managed service for DevSecOps for the enterprise. I kind of funded it with a lot of great airmen back in my time as a chief software officer in the Air Force. and we created a whole DevSecOps platform. And it's important to understand it's a lot of people think of DevSecOps as a pipeline, and they fail to realize there's the runtime platform. That's the sec from your DevSecOps, is the runtime platform that enforces both the service mesh with zero trust and the continuous monitoring, behavior detection, log aggregation aspect. And so we created all that, and we open sourced it and created an open source community around the product, which is called Big Bang. Big Bang enables you to instantiate the entire Platform One capability anywhere, whether it's on the cloud or air-gapped or disconnected. And a lot of people, have been struggling because maybe of some of the lack of documentation and, of course, the complexity of Big Bang. And tell us a little bit, Navin, why or TapSV, I guess, why you think maybe Big Bang is hard to use, and what did you solve by bringing End-build, and you've just been announced as one of the Platform One reseller in partnership with Revacom. There's a few more that are announced, which we created kind of this commercial reseller network around Platform One to help Platform One scale. Tell us a little bit about why you thought End-build would really streamline the adoption of Big Bang.
That's a great question. When you look at Big Bang today, it is a combination of multiple open source and commercial technologies that are stitched together to enable the whole concept of declarative state with GitOps, right? That's one of the core tenet of what you're trying to achieve, where you declaratively express your desired state and get your environment to comply with that, with all the security baked in. And when you do that in Big Bang, it translates into a lot of configuration that needs to happen across the tooling that you choose. And it introduces certain complexities in terms of how should I configure the stack, and also how do I take care of very specific technical features around Kubernetes secrets that need to be set up the right way for things to work. And when our engineers, who are also a part of Big Bang and the Platform One team, started looking at that, we kind of thought about it as two problems that we think we can add value with. One problem was, how can I make that configuration, which could be significantly large, into bite-sized chunks that people can express and manage? So you're not looking at the whole stack at every single point. The second bucket was, now that I know that this is the configuration, how do I expose that where it's a forcing function for you to think about Kubernetes secrets, visualizing your deployment, and getting into the day two operations. You stood up your stack. Now, what is the tooling that tells me, what is my service mesh performance? How is my actual Kubernetes cluster working? Getting those kind of telemetry data back into a platform so that people have a clear picture and agreement. And Nick, the biggest challenge in tech stacks, which we see today, is more or less there is overlap between the same kind of capability, but it's the convergence and agreeing on what you're deploying that's very hard to achieve, because you might be saying the same thing, but unless you visualize it and agree that this is the same tooling, it's the same stack, it is the same kind of automation, you might swap one stage in your reference architecture with something else, but maybe 90% of it is the same. To get there, you need some way to visually agree or disagree quickly so that you can start building. And that's one of the things that we focused on.
Yeah, and I liked also that because you give back to open source and you're not forking Big Bang. That was always very important to me, that companies are not trying to find a sneaky way to to destroy kind of the culture and the vision we had when we created Platform One. And you also add layers on top, right, with AI and data fabric, and even all the way to blockchain. And so you made it very modular and flexible, and I think the modularity and the flexibility of containers and the ability to swap things and try things out is also very key. So now we're gonna go and watch your demo. let's bring this up in a second. We're gonna have this demo time, party time, as I like to call it, and then we'll let you present the end build product to us, and then we'll go and take some questions live again. So please, anyone on the live event, please share with us what you think you wanna ask, and start with a cue so we know it's not just talking to people. Also, if you wanna share with us, we have hundreds of people right now between platforms, but if you want to share with us where you're from, what company you're from, and what keeps you up at night, tell us a little bit about am I crazy, am I vastly wrong when it comes to the fight with China. I see on the chat there's already a whole debate about the Chinese and the US, and the fact that I agree we should be so far ahead. We shouldn't even have to worry and look back. Look at Tesla, right? They open source their patent because they know their velocity and their pace of adoption innovation is so fast that they don't care. They don't need to worry about competition. They're miles ahead. They have no problem even giving stuff away, because by the time those guys even start using it and consuming it, they're all going to be already 5 miles ahead. So keep that in mind. Post in the comments. We'll go to the demo now. I'll bring it up on the screen. I'm going to remove my face, and let's do that now.
So what you're looking at is our end-build stack, which essentially lets you choose different layers. For example, if you're trying to configure Kubernetes distros, you can choose between Rancher, EKS, AKS, K3S. These are standard packages that we have put together to help you deploy a big bang stack and choose the components that make sense for your specific requirements, right? You can select different components. For example, Argo, you can choose or not choose that. But in the overall complexity, you're now able to deploy things like NiFi, Kafka, Cassandra for doing data ingestion use cases. We support Hyperledger Fabric to run on Kubernetes. We also have support for Knative on the IoT platform so that you can make inference requests. And the machine learning development itself, we are supporting Kubeflow along with Khatib on the Kubernetes stack. The core choice is that you can build the Kubernetes cluster in any cloud environment and kind of go through the stack deployment in a sequence. So Big Bang itself has to be configured with the value for secrets management, as I mentioned earlier. And we expose that in a particular way so that you can configure it in bite-sized chunks and choose a particular cluster to deploy Big Bang into. And once you go through that, it kicks off a pipeline that shows you the deployment of different stacks, whether it is logging information from Elastic, whether it is data operations with the service mesh in Kiali. You can also track specific telemetry for your cluster performance and look at all the parts for the applications that you've chosen to deploy onto the Kubernetes cluster in Prometheus. And this is all packaged in a way that's easy for you to consume. We're also letting you choose feature sets like Feast, which let you then deploy machine learning models using Knative onto a cluster that is a Kubernetes cluster. And Nbuild, as mentioned earlier, the two main points that we're trying to solve is, can I simplify the configuration in bite-sized chunks? And can I do that with an interface that gives me not just day one operation and automation? We can look at day two and continuous management of that enclave within the platform. Nick, back to you.
Thanks. This was great. And so what was always intriguing, right, is the flexibility and the modularity of the modules on top, and you can add more open source products, even the costs, right? I mean, there's an opportunity to increase the stack on top and abstract it in a way that you're not getting locked into these products. So that's always cool to think about. So let's take some questions. There are related questions and related questions. I'm going to try to find a couple of related questions. So let's see. So Graham was asking, what is the most important topic of a cybersecurity student should focus on learning? I was thinking about that one a little bit because it's interesting. I actually think there's no such thing as a single topic that's going to be relevant for too long. And in fact, what you need to learn in 2021 in pretty much all of IT is how do you learn by yourself? So how do you learn to learn? How do you continuously learn and reinvent yourself? Don't become stale. Continuous learning is going to be the key to success of any individual that is trying to succeed in IT, regardless of cyber or not cyber. So I really think that's what I would think about is how do you learn? How do you focus on that? So hopefully that answers your question. If you have more comments, but of course, right now, if you have to pick a topic, I would say anything around zero trust is pretty hot. There's also this whole new work being done with NIST and a lot of my good friends in the government and outside of the government about next generation access control, NGAC, kind of a service mesh on steroids, and how they're using Envoy to address both the person entity and non-person entity to bring a full zero trust stack at the edge and anywhere. That's pretty cool stuff. But again, this is all gonna get stale. So again, continuous learning is the answer. Also wanted to bring up a couple of things before we look at a couple more questions. Let's bring Navin back. So Navin, unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about this great news I've seen after I left the government about ViVSoft and Revacom partnering and becoming one of the authorized Platform One reseller, and what does that mean for people?
Yes, it's essentially a great news for many agencies, both DoD and non-DoD. And Nick, as you know, there is many agencies that is trying to leverage P1, sometimes even recreate P1. We are seeing that pattern not just in DoD agencies, but even in other agencies. And we've been seeing that trend for the past year and a half, and that was one of the key drivers for us to innovate N-Build. We saw the need, we built on it. But this award means essentially this is a great news, not just for the customer community and even for the vendor community and even for commercial customers. That gives us another medium to leverage P1 products, right? So that's the essence of this. And I think along with our team, there is 3 or 4 or 5 other companies got selected, and there is so many customers out there looking to do P1, and this is a great news for all of them.
Yeah, and the good news with the reseller vision is to enable also organizations outside of DoD and even other nations. We had a lot of interest in Australia, in the UK, and Canada, and other, of course, friendly nation that want to learn how to use Platform One. And I think it's going to really empower and really make sure that the Platform Big Bang open source community is vibrant. We have a lot of great companies announcing they're going to really use Big Bang at scale across the organization. So that's exciting to see that we're going to have kind of these resellers that will be able to make sure that the best interests of the taxpayer and the government and the open source community are still kept in mind through that partnership, but also that we help organizations create business models around the adoption of Platform One.
Absolutely.
All right. So last piece of information. I know a lot of people are watching. I believe because of all the stuff and all the excitement that you have going on, you're hiring. And I know a lot of our people that are watching us are very technical and great engineers, and they might be looking for something. Although if you're in the government, stay in the government a little bit longer. We need you in the government. But if you're leaving, or if you're in different companies and you're excited about this, please check this out. And Navin, give us a little bit of insight there.
Sure. So today, it's truly an exciting time to be here at ViVSoft. Today, we are at about 45 employees. In 2 weeks, we'll be at about 55. And we expect to scale up to 90 employees by the end of this year. We are hiring. Predominantly, our needs are around DevSecOps, data science, and cybersecurity. So if you or someone is interested, would love to hear from you. I'll drop my LinkedIn handle. If you can drop me a note, would love the conversation.
All right, so cool. So wanted to thank you guys again. I'm going to be taking more questions. You feel free to stick around, but we'll go back to more live questions and see what people think. And of course, feel free to give your thoughts as well. Thanks for joining us, both Nevin and Tapasvi.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Nick. Yep.
I'm not the only one saying it. As you can see, someone else says the same thing on the.
Oh,
on
thank
the
you,
comments.
everyone. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right, so QA times. So let's take a look. And again, if you have questions, please put it in the comment section below. I'm going to go back from the beginning of the conversation and take a look at some of the questions I've seen. So, all right. So Kurt did a typo, but he meant a Q instead of a A. He was asking a very good question that a few people already asked me before, but it's good that I can do that here. He was asking all the Digital Service Academy and Digital Reserve outline in the NSCAI aggressive enough to bridge the chasm of technical literacy we need our next generation to have? Look, I think it's interesting, right? But I never thought the answer would be to create more siloed organizations. Just like I've yet to see meaningful, tangible value and outcomes come out of the defense digital service, other than JEDI, if you call that value or negative value. I think at least the previous leaders, the new DDS team is actually pretty good. But the former teams were trying to bring a lot of shadow IT and not fixing the actual problems, and just short-sighted quick wins that just don't stick. And I never was a big fan of that. I was always trying to remove impediments and fixing policies and making sure that whatever it is we do gets to stick, right? And otherwise you just, you think you're moving fast, but you're not. So, I think that's just not enough to bring additional new siloed team. I think the key is to find a way to bring the talent and embed them into every programs, right? They shouldn't be centralized. They should be actually very decentralized. We should have them baked in, shifted left into the programs, and really have a massive adoption, have a career track and pay scale and all the stuff we need, both for software, cyber, AI, right, and data science. So I'm not even sure we need that kind of concept. I think it just compounds a problem. It just feels like we're trying to find a half-baked way to solving the talent problem, when really, honestly, we just need to bring DoD scale solutions, not pockets, so I guess that's my answer for you. All right. So let's see. Let's take another question. All right. Do you think the Air Force IT/cyber enterprise has a bias towards building brand new things instead of improving existing infrastructure? If so, what incentives can be constructed to combat this? I think pretty much anybody on the planet has a bias to build their own things and control their own destiny. And I was even sometimes guilty of that myself, and sometimes you don't even know something exists already that's good enough to be reused. And so there's so many silos and vacuum that you may not even be aware that there's something really good that exists. And then you create something new, and now, you debate whether or not you should merge it or find a way to partner. And it's very difficult to partner in the government. There's just way too many silos. In terms of improving, I think I was proposing first to address all the basic IT infrastructure and platform and basics of IT life as a joint team. So I would argue we need a new office reporting to DevSecDef, whatever you want to call that, join agile, IT thing. And then inside of that, you would have joint teams for cloud, for DevSecOps/platform, for data fabric, for zero trust, and for AI/ML. And these will be joint teams with all the services, top talent merged into a centralized team. No prime leading the work. always value stream comprised of multiple companies to have diversity of options, all classification levels from day one, DevSecOps baked in, buying capacity of work, not stuck in time requirements, very much like Platform One did with the value stream, with 35 companies on contract, and the government being the integrator and leading the backlog grooming, and the companies providing the talent with a very clear definition of done, of delivery, of quality inside of the DevSecOps pipeline and inside of passing the test in the pipeline and the cyber scans and all that stuff. So I think that is obviously very essential. So I think the answer is, if you want to stop people from building their own things, you have to make all these basic layers of life in IT commodity, so they can be consumed, and we should see it as a startup inside of the government, and the DoD programs will be the customers, and we should never forget that who is the customer, right? So, all right. So next question. So who among the folks still working for the Air Force and Space Force do you consider to be the strongest and most effective advocate for digital engineering and model-based decision support for acquisition? I'm looking for DAF customers and end users to sign a customer memorandum for an AFWorks Phase 2 cyber. So in terms of that kind of work, I would say, of course, the team inside of the chief architect in the Air Force and Space Force are great. Brian Cropper, who is leading the MBSE work in Hanscom, is awesome. Steve Hazelhost, leading, of course, the Zero Trust work, which tied to digital engineering and rapid innovation and Contus ATO. Of course, the Platform One team, the Kessel Run team. You have, of course, lots of pockets of time, the swag, with Cal Fox in GBSD. I mean, there are a lot of teams in B21, LRSO, right? And of course, Lauren Kay, the Air Force, the CIO. Those will be probably the most strongest advocate of all this stuff. So hopefully that helps. All right, let's see. Question from Michael. I got the tool. He got to tool the massive national security technology complex in Wuhan, China in 2018. What possible analogs for such center of excellence and innovation do you see in the US? Well, I didn't tool that complex. And I guess you got to see the center of the pandemic before it was such. That must be scary. So I've not been there, so I can't really compare to what I would know to be equivalent in the US. I'd love to see what you think. I believe there is nothing, from what I understand. You're going to find universities, right? But they're not focused as much. I mean, of course, you have MIT Lincoln Lab and, different FFRDC, right, doing a lot of national security work. I wouldn't compare it to the scale of what I know of the NSTC. So, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you think? Tell us in the comments. And by the way, there is a 3-minute delay between when I talk and when you see stuff. So we'll get back to you when you comment. All right, there's Ka, who has the best picture of everybody here. Following risk management principles, do you think all of DoD should adopt one strategy, or each branch should try different methods to spread risk, analogous to have many banks rather than a few central banks? It's a great question. I think when it comes to weapons, definitely you want to have options, and you want to have each branch and each services adopt their own things. When it comes to basics of life of IT, there's no risk. We have to stop saying that building a transport layer with crypto on top, so we can have proper connectivity to fiber, 5G, clouds, and satellite is a risk. There's no risk there. It's common sense. We can do this all day. We need a centralized team to do this. Like I said, at a joint level, reporting directly to DevSecDev. Same for cloud adoption. Same for all these contract vehicles. Zero trust, a little bit more, more scary. But again, you cannot federate zero trust. How do you federate policy enforcement points, right? It's anti-zero trust to just trust blindly another PEP. So, by definition, we have to do it centrally. Identity management is the same concept, right? DevSecOps platforms, if you have a team like Platform One with dozens of options, why do you need to spread the risk? What is the risk, really? Particularly if you invest. I think there is more risk if we dilute ourselves, have talent spread too thin, and let's govern people overseeing the right stuff because they're spread too thin in siloed team, and just a ton of taxpayer waste, right? And so we get 10 cents on the dollar on return on investment when we do this. So let's not do that, right? I think we have to be smarter. So I think when stuff is really innovative and very complex, it does make sense not to have all your eggs in the same basket. But when we're talking about basic of IT, we need to be smarter than that, right? So hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's see. All right, so Salmad, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Hello, thanks for doing this. Question for me: what is your vision for cloud computing synergy with edge computing? Well, that's why we've been pushing Kubernetes on the weapon systems at the edge, on air-gapped clouds, on premise. So we have this effective mesh layer and orchestration stack that can run these containers and Lego blocks across cloud and on-premise and stuff. And so I think it's essential to have that baked-in security and that mesh for zero trust, for authentication of the NPE, and at the edge you want to have diversity of hardware. You probably have seen that I joined as an advisor the company TMG Core, who is building a lot of amazing hardware at the edge with hypercompute capabilities and different form factors. And I'm trying to convince them that we need to go all the way from a backpack to a full cloud at the edge, potentially completely air-gapped and disconnected, that can sync back to a broader cloud. And you see this, of course, with the Amazon of the world, with the Snowballs and Outposts and Azure stacks. You want to have diversity. You want to be abstracted, though. You don't want to be locked into the cloud provider. You don't want to use APIs. I see so many great DevSecOps products and companies completely locked into the Amazon or Azure APIs. They can't even run their software without it. I think that's short-sighted when you need to run on space systems, edge weapons. You want to run it everywhere. So we want to have that abstraction, okay? All right, so next question from Robert. How important are open APIs to achieving the goal of building solutions across the environment of different players and participants? So, everybody tout open API as the answer, and it's only a big piece of the puzzle, but you can still get locked in. You can still have tremendous dependency. And, ideally, you don't just want to integrate things, right? Sometimes you have Lego blocks you want to reuse, right? Let's say a sensor on a jet wants to be reused on the ship. That's not really an API use case. That's a reuse of software use case. So I think there's two critical aspects, right? You want to have these Lego blocks that can be segmented right and sized right so they can be reusable. And just like SpaceX has, 80% of their code across the 9 platforms shared across SpaceX with only 200 developers, and you compare with the 4,000 developers on F-35 and only 4% of the code shared with a F-22, that lack of reuse and modularity and Lego blocks concept is hurting us more so than having open APIs, right? So you want to think of open APIs. You want to think of the ability to, of course, have these well-defined interfaces, but that's not, when people sell this as the final outcome to make sure you're not getting locked in, that's completely wrong, right? You can completely be locked into an API, whether the API is open or not. If the product that provides the API is closed IP, you're locked into that API regardless. So I think it's great to have true open APIs, particularly when they are fully end-to-end open tools like the Kubernetes API that gives us that abstraction layer. So it's essential there, but it's not, the end of it all, right? You want to have a broader aspect of modularity and flexibility and diversity of options, and not getting locked in. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Alex has a question here. Is there any equivalent of Platform One in China? Generally, is there any public information on China perspective on DevSecOps and Ruthless automation? So I obviously can't talk about the classified stuff I know. I can tell you that China is taking DevSecOps very seriously. If you look at the CNCF landscape and the number of Chinese companies in Kubernetes and all the related CNCF projects, you're going to find that sometimes they have even more involvement than we do in the US. So that's scary. So clearly they are massively investing, and keep in mind the commercial companies have to work with the Chinese government, unlike us. So they have massive access to talent and capabilities, and they certainly agree, that the key to that velocity of delivery is about that automation, that DevSecOps concept. I don't think there's a lot of public stuff other than look at who is contributing to all these open source projects from a Chinese standpoint, right? You're going to be pretty shocked pretty quick. I'm actually talking to a company that's able to look at GitHub's repos and create a lot of great inside dashboards about not just the stars and the likes and stuff, but really the contributors and where they're coming from and all that good stuff. So, and Donald says they stole it. They don't even have to steal it, technically speaking, because it's open source. So I guess I wouldn't call that stealing for once. That's actually legal. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they use it, no doubt. So a question by a LinkedIn user. What is the difference between Platform One and other software factories like Chaillan or Bespin? If Platform One is the enterprise solution and the reference architecture, then what place do the legacy software factory have in the U.S. Air Force? Is it time to sunset those and redirect their platform sustainment fund towards more differentiated activities such as potentially AI or quantum computing? It's a great question. I think there's a very important recommendation I made to SecAF, which is we absolutely must mandate all the legacy software factories like Kobayashi Maru, Chaillan, and Bespin, who, by the way, spend a lot of money in DevSecOps with what I would argue are very inferior DevSecOps capabilities to Platform One, to move to Platform One and merge their talent. They have a lot of budgets, they have a lot of funding. So they need to merge. Most of them are not even compliant with the continuity requirements and reference architecture design. So they need to merge, and we need to merge the money and the talent of the platform. Now, the mission software, of course, makes a lot of sense. Bespin focused on business systems, Chaillan on AOC and other stuff now. And of course, Kobayashi on space. You see others doing that already, of course, with Space Camp and the Swag. But there's still pockets of forking and waste. So we really need to mandate the use of Platform One. And unfortunately, I've yet to see the leadership have the will to do that. That's very short-sighted. It's costing the taxpayer a lot of money, and also putting the nation at risk because we have less baked-in security in most of these stacks. So I would sunset the platform, but not their work. So they, I believe on the FIDAP, you see Chaillan getting like 60 million a year, I think, in platform work. That should be moved to Platform One, for example. And they have great talent, so merging it effectively, 1 + 1 = 3, right? We get to do way more stuff and better things. And yeah, some of it could be spent also on AI and quantum, but I would argue right now we need still a lot of work in DevSecOps and baked-in security and multi-party signing and all the stuff I was trying to do that I couldn't do because of lack of funding. So hopefully that answers your question there. Let's see. Again, if you have a question, please put it in the chat, in the comment. All right. Donald is saying, Nick, how will Platform One impact platform IT specific to weapon systems and the supporting infrastructure? Well, ideally, Platform One will become the orchestration stack of even real-time OS weapons and really bring the OMS and all the weapon systems on top. And slowly but surely, we're going to containerize these, and they're going to run on top. And the Platform One platform will bring zero trust and continuous monitoring and behavioral detection, and do all the high availability disaster recovery capability on top. And Big Bang will be the foundation of that, so we can run anywhere at the edge and on weapons. That is the ideal future of Big Bang, and the biggest success story we could ever achieve. So, so LinkedIn user says, if not here, but in your writings, can you address recommendations on how to transition for transformation? Folks admire the need to change, but I see the hardest part to transformation is how to get from A to Z rapidly. That considers sustainment of operations, get the right talent in place, and tolerance of disruption. Yeah, so I think the first aspect is to be end-to-end agile. I see too many people say, "Oh, I have an IDIQ contract. I can place orders when I need to buy stuff. I need this button. I'm going to go and buy this button. So I need money for this button. I'm going to place an order on an IDIQ to get 2 engineers to build this button." That's not agile. None of this is agile. The way we should do business, we should have a contract to buy capacity of work. We should staff it based on the funding. We can augment it and decrease it as needed. But that capacity of work is then a team that's defining how much you can produce of work every 2 weeks cycle. And then you can groom your backlog and prioritize work. The more we're going to use these models of staffing and manning, the better it's going to be, and less risky for sustainment, and also for retaining talent, because people will be excited to be part of these value streams. And there's not going to be as much disruption when there's contract change and stuff like that. Ideally, there's never a single prime. It's spread among multiple companies and led by the government being the integrator in the DevSecOps pipeline, GFE, with passing the test and scan, so you're not buying wasted time. I'm going to do a full publication, and I'm writing an op-ed now for a pretty big publication to talk about these solutions and what we need to implement in the department to get this done. And so I'll share more, and I think we're going to do a whole dedicated event. I'm trying to convince someone, I might say her name, Christina. Let's put pressure on Christina to come to the show next show, 2 weeks, to talk about how do we bring end-to-end agile in the department and what's lacking for this to succeed. So I'll keep the more detailed answer to my next event. Again, that's going to be not next Tuesday, but Tuesday in 2 weeks, same time. So, all right. So she has no choice but to join us, right? All right. So Liren, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry. How do you make sure open source packages and libraries used are not compromised by time bombs or Trojans, especially the ones downloaded from the internet as code and compiled on site in a dynamic, non-CV or similar way? You just pointed out one of the massive supply chain risk. First is we need to stop every team doing this in vacuums. We need to do it. I wanted to do this at Platform One and put it into a repo that we control. Sometimes you're going to have to put eyes on code. There's no automation tool that really does a good job at malicious code. They're going to find bad code, crappy code, but not malicious code like time bombs and stuff. So there's a few companies, right, like Shift Left, they're trying to look at that. It's just hard to use. I don't know if it can scale. We've seen again this weekend, I think NSA announced there was a supply chain package compromised. I forgot which one, but it was pretty big in the news again, where they put some crypto mining thing in there. Scary, right? So having a central place to download the packages from internet, scan them, and approve them, and put it so they can be then consumed, in a safer way. But honestly, there's a massive gap in software security when it comes to malicious code. Looking at things that open ports and exfil data and potentially do a time bomb kind of concept. It's very anecdotal. There's not enough on the market. Big gap. So, all right. So, let's see. I want to say hi to Kurt again. All right. Pete said, what is the most critical component to get right in a DevSecOps project? Budget, timeline, scaling, identity, workforce training. I would argue investing in your people. So continuous learning and giving them an hour a day not to get still and behind. And again, you need to have the right baseline of diversity and options. You don't want to be stuck with a single company, a single prime, right? So if you're already stuck, you're going to have to change that first and have this end-to-end agile model first, and then you can really make sure you invest in your people. And I did a great partnership in the government with the Linux Foundation, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and O'Reilly the books to really bring unbiased content to the warfighter. So we're not getting locked into a single cloud provider or company, right? That's something to pay attention to as well. All right. Next question. All right, so we have Michael here, who is the chair of the U.S. National AI and Cybersecurity ISAIO, and he says that what keeps him up at night is very similar to what I talked about. Our adversaries have adopted a whole of nation approach to key national security areas like AI. Some have even started programs to invest into cyber literacy of the government leaders and the business literacy of the cyber leaders. Yeah, and China is investing in kids very early, right? We just, honestly, the education market is a joke. And I'm not just saying this because I have no degree. For people that don't know, I created my company back in France. I was 15, so I only have a high school diploma. But the fact is, I think in IT particularly, education has to be completely reinvented. Curriculums are so far behind. I would argue many of the teachers are just the people who felt at being relevant in IT. Of course, there are exceptions, no doubt, but that's what I see a lot. And I see also much more urgency from China, for example, in investing very early in terms of the kids' adoption of AI, data science, and more relevant training, right? So David has a great question on how can Indian IT talent contribute to advancing critical US technologies? And second, is it time to form an IT production board similar to the formation of the War Production Board in World War II? So, I mean, Indian or not Indian, right? Obviously, we have a lot of friendly nations. And yeah, I mean, they can contribute. I mean, I guess it depends, right? If they're not a US citizen, it makes it a little bit harder. But they can still create great software, open source it. And, we don't see a lot of issues using products coming from India. They can move here, come live the American dream. We had, I have a lot of Indian friends, and honestly, I would argue they control most of the IT industry right now. You look at CEOs and CTOs and CIOs over the world, they are Indians, so that's exciting to see, and then when it comes to the IT production board, yeah, I think, something like that, right? I don't know how you call it, but I mean, I think the main issue is the lack of urgency and the complacency of, calling China a near peer adversary, where really they are a peer adversary. They're not near at all. Sometimes they're equal or leading. Of course, sometimes behind in the less relevant stuff, right? I don't know how much we're going to care about fifth generation fighters in the next wars if they start being able to turn off the U.S. power through a cyber offense attack. So I think we need to wake up and have do it before it's too late, So, and we have David here. Is a retired Marine and is working for Reed Labs. It's a well-funded, top-ranked startup, a global leader in AI, and they want to work with DoD. That's great. We need more people that want to do that. there are companies out there that help you get there. Of course, companies like Defense Unicorns and Second Front and others are really a great partner to get your stuff in the government. They're gonna help you get there. But I'm glad you're already willing. It's a little bit short-sighted when companies refuse to work for the government, saying, "Oh, I don't want to help kill people or whatever." When the fact is, you could prevent people from dying. You could save lives. Look at the attack on the car in Afghanistan with the debacle killing 7 kids. I would argue with better vision AI, looking at satellite imagery, we could have known proactively that there were 7 kids in that car and not target it. So you can save lives. Come help us. Jonathan Shaw here says, is there any way to maintain true independence within the same development stack to leverage Iron Bank, or will it require a separate instance? No, you will need definitely a separate instance. So Iron Bank is redesigned for the enterprise containers anyway. So if you're going to have your own software on top that's not really enterprise, you're going to want to bring your own repo for that portion. And then you're going to have the Iron Bank for the enterprise stuff. So keep it like this. Share in Iron Bank what could benefit the enterprise, and have a separate instance. And you can even use your separate registry to mirror Iron Bank, so you get a local copy of the containers. All right. So Alex is asking a question here. He remembers reading a presentation on Huawei IoT cloud-based on OpenStack and another on Alibaba Cloud. They indeed took all the concept from Amazon at the time. The question is, what are their present vision stacks? For example, with Russia, this information is somehow publicly available. The easiest way to find out what these companies are using, look at what kind of talent they're hiring. I can tell you right now, Huawei and Alibaba are massive users of Kubernetes, right? And it's easy, right? Look at who they're hiring. If they ask for, Kubernetes, Istio, and all these kind of skills, they moved off OpenStack, long time ago. So they are very much now consuming, the CNCF capabilities. So, all right, let's see. We got a lot of questions. So, all right. I mentioned that the U.S. government needs to work with the public sector, such as Google or the big tech, to be able to beat China. But there's one difference between CCP and the U.S. government. China uses the companies but doesn't give them the power. But in the U.S., big tech have enough power to even interfere in many political decisions. Don't you think involving them in U.S. government AI projects give them unlimited power? There's no need to mention that in most cases, big techs are, and of course you cut off because it was too long. But I get what you're saying. I would argue they already have unlimited power, quite honestly, which is scary, no doubt. But the fact is they also innovate a lot. And when I say, the public companies or the companies, the US companies, I don't just say big tech. I actually mean also a lot of the startups. I do believe when you look at all the merger and acquisition, right, all these big tech companies are buying all these new innovative startups. So clearly there's a lot of goodness and innovation going on outside of the big tech. So I mean any company, but I see a lot of even the smaller companies refusing to work with the US government, saying, oh, I don't want to help kill people or whatnot. It's very short-sighted, right? They live in the Silicon Valley bubble often. They don't realize the threat we face and the fact that if they don't wake up and we don't wake up, maybe their freedom and their kids' lives will be at risk one day. So hopefully that's not going to happen. So, all right, let's see. Next question. All right. Are we taking the steps toward AI and AI control of our infrastructure? I don't think so. I think there are plenty of use cases that will help people make decisions or get more insights. A lot of very low-hanging fruit use of AI that doesn't equate to a lot of scary AI control of taking over things that humans should probably still be doing. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that I would start there first, like basic AI vision and analysis of data at scale, and text to speech and speech to text, and a lot of things that we could use. Proactive maintenance, right? I think there's going to be a very big, scary cyber offense AI wall where AI will be the hacker, right? That's going to be scary, right? So, yeah. So Silona is saying, do you think something like inner source will make it easier for the military to be ready for the shift that needs to happen? It was very successful at PayPal. It's basically open source, but instead of public to the world, it's public to the enterprise. Yeah, we already do some of that with Platform One, and we have a lot of government-only containers there. I think it's about 4,000. So there's definitely a massive play there. The question is, should it? Sometimes it's good to have more companies involved, so the capabilities get better, right? So we have more capabilities, more options, more diversity of talent. So it depends, right? I think sometimes I don't want this to then be the answer to not open sourcing or doing more open source work. I think we need both, right? So, but yeah, definitely need that, no doubt, for sure. So, so this is, by the way, for people that want to connect to Nevin. Of course, he's hiding who he is, but that's Nevin talking here. So he's always hiding from people. Let's see. All right. Rakesh is saying, does Platform One have an inbuilt software supply chain for artifact images input and generated output too? Yes. So with Iron Bank, we scan the supply chain, bill of material of all the containers we get from the outside, and we also generate the output in all the containers there as well. And that's part of the on-call. We use on-call capability there to do that. And they say it's much more. We will, we want to. I guess I still stay but I'm not in Platform One anymore. But they want to do that. That is just the tip of the iceberg with Sixstore, big open source SBOM project. We partner with the OMB and the White House on SBOM, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on in SBOM as well. Do you think the DoD will ever adopt container optimized OSs like Talos OS or Micro OS from SUSE? I also really like how both of these ship with air-gap friendly VM images, or do you think there will be too much lead time to get them approved for use versus more traditional ones? No, I hope so. I think, with containers now, we can get base images reviewed. And I think the biggest issue I see is a STIG. So we need to at least do the Linux STIG, and we need to do the FIPS compliance. And that's what many companies refuse to do. And that's a big issue. I've seen companies like Wind River do their real-time OS containers and stuff. So there are plenty of companies trying to do this. And you can automate that. And I think I want to help find a way to do that at scale. Honestly, swapping bits to put boring SSL is not rocket science. So, we should do that better. And Silena was sharing a great link here. If people want to take a screenshot of the chain of custody to enable safe sharing with immutable auditing. So that's cool. So take a look at it. All right, question from Liren again. What do you do with cases of application deployment malfunction and reacting in zero time to remediate them, especially on Kubernetes? Well, so first you want to treat your entire cluster and your entire stack as cattle. So we actually want to kill the containers multiple times a day, every 4 hours, whatever, and really have high availability and blue-green deployment and canary releases. So there's never just one instance of the application running. You even run an N-1 version. So if something goes wrong with a new deployment, you revert back with no downtime. There's a lot of ways to do that with a service mesh like Istio. So I would say Kubernetes alone is not enough. That's why you bring the service mesh on top. And you want to bring, this concept of blue-green and canary releases on top using the Istio Envoy proxy there. So that's what I would do. And then Andres has a question saying there is an existing gap in knowledge and understanding from industry regarding DevSecOps implementation, ATOs, requiring certificate to field. Additionally, there is not an open pricing model and process from Platform One where companies can effectively plan costs and schedule to meet their goals during the planning stage. What resources are there for companies to help here? So the reseller model we're doing is going to drastically help. There are a lot of different companies starting to help companies get their certificate to field in Iron Bank. Companies like Otimo and others are doing that. There is an open pricing. There will be an open pricing model now with a reseller model. Again, it was just awarded last week, so you're going to have to wait a few more weeks. But the whole point of the reseller model will be to have that open pricing and more transparency from the resellers that can then get to Platform One. So I think you're going to start seeing massive improvements there. Okay, just hang out a little bit more with us until this is finished. All right, so we have Kirk here asking question on, based on the CDC WHO stats, 7,000 U.S. citizens perish each day before COVID, more than 100 per minute around the world. For those in the public safety industry who are interested in advanced IT to save lives, what groups should we be following, and who specifically beside NIST, DHS, and FirstNet is working on declassified solution for everyday life-threatening emergencies at scale? That's a great question. I think that I actually want to put it out there. Love to see if people have information. I would have pointed to the DHS and FirstNet, so you did that. So please, if anyone has more insight, we can, of course, bring it up in this show or the next show. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have information, but that's obviously very critical stuff there. So, and that's even before COVID. So big numbers. All right, so Donald here asking another question about, will Platform One be capable of addressing ICS SCADA systems development? That's a good question. I think as it is, ICS are very, and SCADA are very proprietary and very locked down. So you could still use the pipeline. You would probably not be able to use the platform. And honestly, the ICS market has not evolved in so many years. It almost it could, right? It just requires a complete reinventing of the market. So it would be a massive lift, but it would be a great, lift to have a zero trust capability there. So, all right, next question. What is the path to a small business onboarding on Platform One? It seems like a hurdle to get sponsors. Wait, it seems like a hurdle was getting sponsors. I don't know. Sorry, that's not proper English. It seems it was a hurdle, I guess, to get sponsors to on board with a shared environment and out of their bespoke habit holes, thus precluding innovation from the commercial side to help guide customers toward Platform One. Is it party bus? What's the cost? Yeah, so it depends, right? Depends what you're doing, right? I guess depends what the small business does. If you have a COTS and you just want to bring it to DoD, you want to use Iron Bank. If you're gonna do work continuously and you want a DevSecOps pipeline, Podibus is the best option. And Podibus has it's a pretty fair cost, but you also have a cost if you want to create a custom pipeline. So if a lot of the stuff you're doing is very specific, and we don't have already a pipeline for it, there's a bigger cost there, which could be a problem. So I guess if you're just building products, you could just use Iron Bank and there's no cost and no need to have a sponsor, right? So keep that in mind. Okay. All right. I guess there's a comment here. I don't see a question, but I'm gonna leave it on the screen for people to read. Oh, and that's the NPM poster thing. So for people that want to check it out. All right, let's see questions. And Max is asking, are we able to ask questions from this comment box? Yes, right here. You just did, right? Now you can actually ask an actual question. All right. Cool. So please do ask the question. So yeah, so if people have questions, again, put it in the comment below here, okay? All right, so I think Team has a question here. Does the hyper focus on AI result in other critical technologies being missed and overlooked? 100%. Okay, I can tell you there's no chance in the department being successful at AI when we don't have a basic cloud capability. We don't have a basic data fabric. We don't have software talent at scale. Until we fix, I see Congress talking about creating this AI, workforce stuff. We don't have a software workforce. We don't have a data workforce. A lot of people think AI is this magical thing. It is not, as you well know. Okay, so we need to be better than that. That's short-sighted. We need to do more. So, all right. So Max has a question. Does Platform One offer any benefit to teams that need to distribute monolithic data to active or deploy units, sending encrypted updates to units / training teams? So, well, first, Platform One is going to vastly help your continuous accreditation process. So you can be deployed continuously and your software can continuously evolve. And we can do that at the edge. We've done it for Afghanistan. So yes. If you're talking about deployed and they are disconnected and it's a mobile app, then probably not. If it's a website app or something like that, then yes. And so I would say yes overall, but I guess it depends on the use case and the details. But just continuous ATO and then the ability to ship it at the edge and on a web interface and have that, of course, behind HTTPS and maybe even zero trust. That's always great. So, yeah. So, okay. So hopefully that answered the question. If you have more questions, or if I didn't answer the question, please, put it on the chat. Okay. On the comment. So, and there's a delay between when I talk and when you hear it. So that's always tricky, about 3 minutes. Okay. So, back to the day one and day two question. The importance of the ruthless automation piece is often dismissed by people because people say, well, I want to move fast. 80% is good enough, right? Which is true to some degree, but if you're going to completely dismiss your service mesh, your orchestration, you're going to treat your platform as pets instead of cattle, right? That's not going to be great. And you're gonna pay this back 20 fold later on. So don't be too short-sighted and think you're moving fast when really you're just moving fast because you are creating a vast amount of technical debt. Okay, that's pretty scary stuff, and you don't want to get there. Okay, so now I also wanted to point out I've created a lot of content, and I created this page on the Prevent Breach website, and if you go on preventbreach.com/created-content and you see the link below, you're going to be able to find a lot of great videos and publications and information there. Also, of course, if you follow me on LinkedIn, then you're going to see these events. You're going to see how to participate and join. I'm posting about, what should we cover in the next event. We're going to talk a little bit about end-to-end agile acquisition. That's going to be fun. A little bit less technical, more culture / enablement and empowerment of our people. And so please share with us what you think you want to cover there. Okay. And we're going to take a few more questions and then I'm going to let you guys go. Okay. So John is saying, sorry to be off topic. There's no topic. It's ask me anything. So you can ask whatever you want. I'm sure several people here are likewise interested. How do you learn so much, so many various technologies? How do you keep up learning new things? Well, I started in IT when I was 7. I'm 37, so 30 years. So and I created my first company. I was 15. So I've been working really for 22 years across multiple nations. And so I've done anything from touch tables to Kinect to websites, e-commerce, face recognition. When you do a lot of diversity and a lot of different kind of work, you learn a lot of different things. And in terms of keeping up, you invest in yourself, right? Your time is very valuable, but if you don't spend it in learning, I watch a lot of videos on YouTube. I learn anything from woodworking to beekeeping on YouTube and how to take care of my chickens and whatever, right? All the way to Kubernetes and different things. And of course, you learn by doing. You want to get your hands dirty. You want to do this stuff. You want to use it, not just talk about it. That's the issue with the certifications in cyber, right? You can get a CSSP without ever logging into a Linux box and getting any kind of access to a shell, so that's not good, right? You want to get your hands dirty, you want to learn, you want to spend the time. There's so much content for free on YouTube, but there's also a lot of great curriculums out there. I mentioned the CNCF, I mentioned the Linux Foundation, I mentioned the O'Reilly the books and so on. So there's so much, and so, yeah, this is just something you want to do, and prioritize yourself. Block an hour a day. Block whatever you want to do. I had a 2-hour commute each way, so the morning 2 hours I would watch videos in the Tesla, and thanks to the self-driving of Elon Musk, don't do that though. That's not safe. But all right. Next question. What stance should the U.S. take towards countries like Russia and China that house state-sponsored hacker groups? Well, they should really arrest them, right, and hold them accountable, and not enable them, right, and empower them. Yeah, it's kind of a disgrace that this is happening. It's going to lead to escalation and more conflicts. And cyber is so bad, right? The cyber posture of our critical infrastructure is despicable. You look at power supplies and water supply, and it's just mind-boggling. I remember when I started at DHS, I couldn't believe it, So, yeah. just mind-boggling. So, yeah, cool. All right, guys. Well, I think we did a great session today. Next session, again, we'll talk about acquisition. Hopefully, you're going to see me more in the news. Wanted to thank again everybody for joining me. Please share. You know, I feel like my LinkedIn posts are getting throttled a little bit. I'm not getting as many views. We're going to build a mailing list. So I'm gonna send emails to people. So every 2 weeks I can invite you to make sure you get the link of the next event. Please always like and share on LinkedIn. It really helps spread and comment. Right, a share is much more than a like. Likes really don't make a big difference now. So if you can share it and comment, that would be awesome. Wanted to thank everybody again for the time. Wanted to thank Tapasvi and Navin again for joining us and sharing a little bit about VivSoft and Build and helping contribute back to Platform One. We need more companies that do that. Please stay safe, healthy. And again, if you have questions, of course, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. And make sure also that, if you want to reach out to me, you have my email here, nicolas.chaillan@preventbreach.com. Okay. You stay safe, guys. Have a great rest of the week. I'll talk to you very soon.